Supernatural Season 9, Episode 11, titled Firstborn. I really enjoyed this episode mostly because we get the introduction of Cain as a character, and I'm pretty sure he's kind of going to be sort of a one off character. He's only going to be in this episode and maybe one or two future episodes, but I really, really enjoyed the character. I really enjoyed the story they did with Cain and Abel, where Cain is actually, saving his brother and sending his soul to heaven, and the only way he can do that is to make a deal with Lucifer and you know kill his brother. Cain had to kill Abel in order to send him to heaven, rather than let Abel be basically duped by Lucifer and turned into a puppet. I thought that was a cool sort of twist on the story. I also thought the character himself was cool because in the beginning of the episode he's basically attacking these demons and he's kind of wiping them away a lot like how angels do, except the light that comes out of the demons is actually red. So I was wondering, who is this guy? What is his power? Is he an angel? Is he like some sort of special angel or something? Who is he? And throughout the episode, of course, we find out he's Cain, who's the father of murder. And by the end of the episode, we find out that the two demons he killed in the beginning were actually knights, much like Abbadon, but he didn't end up killing Abbadon because she had, possessed his wife, so he wasn't able to do it. And we find out about the mark of Cain, which is transferred on Dean, which I think is going to be a really really good plot point for the rest of the season and possibly the rest of the series, unless he transfers it to someone else, which I don't really know why he'd be doing that outside of this random restriction that Cain was about to talk about. But of course, Dean being Dean, he kind of brushes past all the words of warning. So we'll kind of have to wait and see exactly what this you know drawback is to having the ability to use the first blade that is the only thing that can kill Abaddon. But I do believe we got a little bit of a taste of it towards the end of the episode, or at the very end of the episode really, after Dean punched Crowley. And when Crowley disappeared, Dean kind of has a pain in his arm where the mark is, and it made me wonder if maybe he can't just attack people anymore. He like has to kill people in order for him to not feel pain internally. Like maybe he has to, it's either all or nothing, and if he doesn't go all the way and murder someone, the pain that he doesn't inflict, on that person, obviously killing them, is inflicted on him. And obviously it won't kill him, but it'll hurt him, and eventually it would build up and kill him. And that was just the first idea I had in my head. Of course, it could be any number of things really, like he can't do this or that, who knows. But I'm excited to see what the drawback is for Dean. But it would be really cool if he had to do kind of all or nothing, and it would be interesting to see how he kind of works his way around doing that, where he can actually torture demons. But of course, if you saw the preview, you saw that he is going to be working with Sam again, so they're going to kind of make up by next week. So it won't be too much of a problem. But once again, this is just me speculating anyway, so we'll have to see how that plays out. But ultimately, I love the character, or I love this episode. I love the character Cain. The guy who played Cain, I thought was a good choice. He had a good look. He had like kind of the beard going and sort of the older guy look, but he still looked like he could really mess you up if he wanted to. And in this case, he really can. He can just at the end of the episode, when he trapped all the demons in the house with him, he was just killing them left and right. And he mentioned how he would eventually call Dean to use the blade on him. But the character throughout the episode I thought was really really funny. He mentions how he's retired. We learn that Cain is the one who created the Knights of Hell, and that he basically quit, but the Knights kidnapped his wife, and that's why he ended up killing them. Like he stopped murdering demons or humans as well, and he got married and settled down, and then he kind of had to do it in order to save his wife. And it was just really cool to see him kind of just sort of messing with Dean, like he knows his reputation. And Crowley kind of put Dean on display, which we found out at the end of this episode as well, that the entire episode was Crowley's plan. He knew exactly what was going to happen. He knew Cain didn't actually have the blade on him. He knew about the mark, and he knew that Dean would have to have the power transferred to him. So in the scene where they're in the house, and Cain's like, maybe you lost your steps, so he lets the demons in, and Crowley fights like one demon and he just stabs him, and that's it. He watches Dean fight these two demons, which was I thought was a really good scene. I really thought that was a cool fight scene where he's really fighting these two people, and it's in an enclosed space, and like the one guy, he grabs a knife, he fought off three demons and he beat them all, and it was a really cool action scene. But it was also kind of funny, they're fighting around in this little kitchen, and Kane's just sitting at the table in front of like 4 ears of corn that he peeled, and he's just trying to see like, is this guy worth it or not. But in the scene, when you're watching it, you don't know that, and it's just like he's just retired, and he's what he's been saying, he's retired, and he doesn't really give a crap what happens, and he's just watching Dean fight these demons. And Crowley just watching him, we find out of course why he's doing that in the end. But even in the scene, I initially just thought, it's Crowley, he's that type of character where he's like, we're partners, but ultimately, you know I don't really care about you. And he's the perfect type of character who would be like, I saw you fight him, but I figured, you had it, you didn't really need my help, plus I didn't want to get punched again, something like that. And it just seemed like it perfectly fit his character, just to be like, well, I took my one guy out, I'm just gonna let him do his thing, and then come in at the last minute and we're all okay. But we find out the reason he did that was because he was letting Dean basically put on the show for Cain so that he could eventually get the mark. And I'm excited to see, like I said, how that plays into the rest of this season. And if Dean doesn't end up transferring the mark, how it'll play into the rest of the series, if he'll, control whatever the weird restriction is on the mark or something like that. But ultimately, the main story I really loved. Like I said, Cain was a cool character. He was really funny. He sort of dry pan humor, but it was really good. Like I said, the fighting scene was good, and he was just being him. Like, I'm just seeing, but until you see the end of the episode, you don't really realize why everything's happening the way it is. But the main story was really well done. Of course, Dean and Crowley together is always hilarious. Crowley with anyone, or Crowley alone, is always funny. But it was cool to have them, come together in the main story and have a really good development for the rest of this season. And like I said, possibly the series. And then we have the side story, which is Cass and Sam working together, where Cass eventually, in the beginning, he's healing Sam, and he finds out, you have a little bit of grace left in you, and we can use that if we have enough to find Gadriel. And we have a really good moment with Cass where he realizes, especially in the speech where he flat out says, the old me would have basically stuck the needle into you until you died, because the ends justified the means. But being human made me realize how much I really care about you as a person, and your brother, and humans in general, because you're vulnerable, and I actually care about you just like you care about me. And it was a really good scene where he wouldn't go that far to kill Sam, who is his family, who he actually cares about. And although the spell didn't work, or at least that's what Cass said, it was a really good scene. And I do believe he told the truth. I don't see why he'd randomly lie unless he is really angry, because of course Cass has become more human, so to speak, throughout his time on the show. So he could be hiding his own agenda because he wants to kill Gadriel himself, which does make perfect sense. When he first found out who Gadriel was, even when he was in Sam, he almost like killed Sam because of that. So he could be hiding that, and he could have easily just said it didn't work. And then we find out, next week or in 2 weeks, he's going off to find him by himself, and he comes across Metatron, and all types of crazy things might happen. But great moments, little bits here and there, because of course the main story really took focus in this episode compared to some other ones. But both the main story and side story were really well done. Love the episode as a whole, and I'm definitely excited. Next week is sort of one of the more one-off episodes. But once they get back to the main story, and they find they find the first blade, and they really go up against Abbadon, I think that's going to be an amazing episode this season. And it's probably going to, we're probably not going to get that until the season finale. But everything in between, with the mark, I think it just there's so much with that I think they're going to end up showing us. So I'm definitely excited for it, and I really love this episode, not only for, all the ideas that I have in my head because of it, but just the episode itself. Cain being a cool character, getting the scene, between Cass and Sam, and of course just Crowley and Dean just being crazy. Also, a super random thing for anyone who likes comics. The woman Tara, who is in the shop, she was reading a comic that's super popular called Lock and Key. I've never read it, but I've heard a lot about it, and I just thought that was a really random thing that they showed it. So I don't know if Lock and Key is somehow, like, maybe they threw something in and hinted at supernatural or something, or they kind of threw a nod to supernatural, and that's why they put it in this episode. But for anyone who doesn't know, Lock and Key is actually an incredibly good comic. Like I said, I haven't read it myself, but if you like really crazy, cool drama comics with like supernatural elements in them, I think you might enjoy that because that's all I've really heard about it. That it's amazing, and it was just cool to see that in the show because I always love when random things I know about that are really popular are in other random things I know about and love that are also really popular. So I just wanted to kind of throw that in there. But definitely love this episode. Let me know what you guys thought. Comment below. Let me know favorite parts, least favorite parts, and definitely the biggest question I have right now is what do you guys think the drawback to the market is going to end up being for Dean? So comment below. Let me know. And thanks for watching.